There is a reason Viking timber still stands in the ground today, long after the warriors who shaped it faded from memory. Longhouses buried beneath centuries of soil, dock posts sunk into seawater, and even recovered ship planks continue to puzzle craftsmen. They did not have synthetic sealants, pressure-treating plants, or chemical preservatives. Yet their wood endures, tough, stable, and astonishingly resistant to decay. For the next minute, stay with this thought. A civilization working in some of the harshest climates on Earth managed to create timber that outlived kingdoms. That is not myth or romance. Another technique the Vikings used was controlled charring, a method still practiced in parts of Scandinavia. They lightly burned the outer surface of wood posts, just enough to carbonize the exterior without compromising the core. Charcoal is naturally resistant to insects and rot, and the thin, blackened layer creates a barrier that slows moisture penetration. Archaeologists have found structural posts with this treatment still intact after 1,000 years of freeze cycles. The modern version of this method, known in Japan as shosugi-ban, proves that controlled fire remains one of the simplest and most reliable preservation tools ever discovered. Anyone building outdoor fencing or posts today can recreate this by passing a flame over the wood until the surface darkens, brushing the soot off and sealing it with natural oil. The Vikings also worked with the natural resins within the trees themselves. Pine and spruce contain sap pockets filled with antimicrobial compounds, and when split and shaped correctly, these resins spread across the surface as the wood heats, cools and ages. Rather than milling timber into perfectly even boards, they often used hewn beams with intact heartwood rich in resin. Heartwood is inherently rot-resistant, while sapwood rots quickly. This was no philosophical choice, but a survival necessity. If a longhouse beam failed, the building collapsed. Builders today can use this principle by selecting lumber with a high ratio of heartwood, especially for pieces in ground contact. One overlooked part of the Viking secret is airflow. Their longhouses used raised floors and well-designed venting systems that kept moisture from lingering. They understood that wet wood is vulnerable wood, so their architecture naturally encouraged drying cycles. Even their ships stored on land were kept slightly elevated, allowing wind to pass around the hull. This is a principle modern survivalists and homesteaders can apply immediately. Keeping stored lumber off the ground, designing structures with good ventilation, and placing posts on gravel beds instead of bare soil extends timber life without a drop of chemical treatment. There's also the matter of tannins. When Vikings used oak, they often paired it with iron tools or fasteners. Over time, the reaction between oak's tannins and iron particles created iron tannate, a compound that darkened and hardened the wood surface. This unintentional but powerful preservative helped shield beams from fungal intrusion. Today, while we avoid excessive iron staining for aesthetic reasons, the chemistry still works. For posts buried underground, using oak in combination with untreated iron hardware can create a similar hardening effect over time. To apply this knowledge in a practical project, one could recreate a Viking-style rot-proof fence post. Start with winter-cut pine or oak, containing as much heartwood as possible. Submerge the post in clean water for several weeks to purge sugars. Pull it out and let it air-dry slowly in shade. Then lightly char the bottom half of the post, brush the surface clean, and finish it with natural oil such as linseed. bury it in a gravel-lined hole to encourage drainage. This combination mirrors the same biological, chemical and environmental controls that kept Viking timbers strong for a millennium. Even in a modern homestead, such a post may last decades longer than an untreated one. What made Viking timber endure was not magic, but a set of intelligent methods grounded in their environment. Their legacy stands as proof that wood does not need modern chemicals to survive centuries. It needs respect for natural processes, patience in preparation, and an understanding of wood's internal biology. If you found this deep dive useful and want more history-backed techniques you can apply, make sure to subscribe to Thermal Vault and share this guide with fellow enthusiasts who appreciate knowledge that stands the test of time.